Rams fans, training camp has begun. The Los Angeles Rams reported over the weekend, and on Sunday, football was back in the Los Angeles area. Not fully, but we're almost there, my friends. Welcome into a brand new episode of the Rams Report presented by PrizePicks. And on today's show, we're going to be breaking down everything you need to know from day one of practice. And I'll tell you, my friends, we're going to be doing this throughout training camp. So stay tuned with us here. We'll keep you covered on every day of Rams training camp. So make sure you subscribe. But the first thing we've got to start with, because this is context dependent for the rest of practice, and also he's QB1. So, of course, we're going to start with him. Matthew Stafford did not participate on Sunday. Now, why? He's fully healthy, 100% healthy. We don't need to worry about injury concerns. So if you're immediately worried by this, stop being worried. There's nothing to be worried about. In fact, this should get you excited a little bit, guys. So Sarah Barshop tweeted this, and I mentioned this in our day one recap when we talked about the day that they reported. My goodness, does Sarah Barshop do incredible work out there at Rams training camp. She's just flying around. She's getting every report you could possibly need. If you guys aren't already following her, drop a follow on Twitter. But she said Rams QB Matthew Stafford is healthy, but will not practice Sunday as part of the modified schedule he will be on, with a goal of keeping him fresh and ready to go for week one, Sean McVay said. Stafford will not practice during days 1 and 3 of the Rams' 4-day practice block. So again, this goes back to something that my long-term subscribers, the long-term members of the Ramily, are very familiar with and probably already getting fired up about right now, but this is so smart. Guys, we've talked about this over and over again on the channel. Rewind time with me real quick. Rewind in your head back to this time last year. We're sitting here wondering, what's the deal with Stafford's back? We haven't seen the guy throw a football at that point, it had been months since we'd really seen Stafford throw a football, since we'd even heard about Stafford throwing a football. He wasn't participating in OTAs. There was questions about whether or not he was going to participate in camp. He would ultimately not go on to participate in camp. A lot of additional rest for Stafford last year, primarily as a precaution around his back. This is something I tweeted about earlier this weekend. The Rams felt that the extra rest that precautions around Stafford's back provided may have been a driving force in his career year. That's the key here, guys. This is all intentional. This is all being done with a thought process of how do we recreate the conditions that produced the best season of Matthew Stafford's career. And what was a huge element of those conditions? Extra rest during this portion of the offseason. So, of course, it's not going to be to the extent that it was last year. But they also acknowledge, and smartly so, Matthew Stafford is a 20-year veteran in the NFL. He doesn't need to be there every day of practice. He can get ready on his own. He knows his body at this point, and there might be diminishing returns with having him practice every single day at this point. I think this is incredibly smart. They're also applying this mindset to Davante Adams. So again, this was the first day we've seen that, but I just want to clarify for those not up to speed on this, there's nothing to worry about here. In fact, this is something to get excited about. This is the Rams being as smart as they always are. They're so ahead of the curve when it comes to things like this, and they continue to show it. But of course, no Stafford means that this was day one of the backup QB battle. Guys, we've talked about this one a lot ever since the drafting of Ty Simpson. This is going to be a duel between Stetson Bennett and Ty Simpson for the QB2 job. We've heard up to this point that Stetson's kind of holding the edge. What happened on day one? Where do we stand after day one? We're going to break it down for you coming up in just 1 minute. But before we do, I've got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video. And guys, that's the good people over at PrizePicks, America's #1 sports picks app. Guys, it's time to cash in on your ball knowledge with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the sports action you're probably already tuning into. Guys, the app is so easy to use. All you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats, and you're locking in your daily fantasy lineup. And with the social feeds feature, it's easier than ever before to place daily fantasy lineups with PrizePicks. All you have to do is tailor fade with a single click and drop a follow on your buddies or on your favorite creators, including me. My username is Jackson Durham, just my first and my last on PrizePicks. And you guys can see all of my latest lineups, including this absolutely nuclear one right here with the season-long projections. We're going with Sam Darnold. He needs to deliver a 400-yard game for us. We need Mendoza to stay out of it. He cannot start more than 10 games. Jameson Williams needs to go for more than 900 yards. We got a lot of things at play here. You guys can tail, you can fade, whatever you want to do. Just do it with PrizePicks, which is available in most states, including California, Florida, and Texas. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 sportsbooks app. And in their new user offer, guys, is a brand new offer. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. PrizePicks just switched up their offer, my friends. So there's no better time to join. Lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. As always, let's talk about the backup QB battle. And before we do that, let's talk about that mustache, man. That's a stash from Stetson Bennett. He has been growing that thing over the last couple of months. We're going to show you his headshot in just a second here, and it's night and day, brother. But Stetson led the first team offense out there. He was with the first team, guys. Ty was with the second team. And again, like I told you guys before we talked PrizePicks, that's been the consistent theme over the last couple of months from everyone who's been out there at Rams OTAs is Stetson's kind of got the edge right now. Stetson's QB2 right now, it seems like more like Ty's QB3, and that held on day one of this thing. But remember, I've told you guys this before, and I'm going to continue to reiterate to you, the competition just began. All the stuff in OTAs, that's well and good. That's cool that we can see you throwing shorts. But at the end of the day, 11 on 11s with the pads on, that's what matters. This is where things get real. So Stetson leading with the first team is absolutely key, but we're going to see Ty get some first team reps coming up soon. I guarantee you that, and this competition is far from over. But here's what assistant offensive co-offensive coordinator Nate Scheelhaase had to say about Stetson's first day. I appreciate his competitiveness in all moments. And going back to last year, obviously you get to experience him in training camp. You get to experience him in the preseason and just seeing the way that he went to work, the way that guys would rally around him. He competes. And I think everybody enjoys playing with a quarterback who competes, who's going to throw it all in there. And that's the mentality he has. And that's only grown, since being here. But that's something that's been his calling card since the jump. And that tracks for a guy who is a two-time national champion and now champion mustache grower as well for Stetson Bennett. You could see that competitive mentality that's kept him in this locker room over the last couple of years. That's been a huge part of why he's still here. I know it's been a question mark for Rams fans. Obviously, he hasn't contributed yet in the regular season. He has yet to play a snap, but he remains a part of this roster because of what he's able to do in practice, in camp, in the preseason, and with his mind. So again, where does that leave Ty Simpson? It leaves him working with the second team right now. It leaves him working with the second team guys, and that is nothing to worry about. Guys, this is a strong QB room in front of him. Stetson Bennett is a strong backup that most NFL teams would be happy to have, and Ty Simpson is a 15-game starter at the college level. Him being behind a guy who was a two-time national champion and now has 3 years of NFL experience under his belt should not surprise you, and he came out firing on day one. Guys, he's doing everything he can to compete in this competition. There is nothing he is doing wrong. We have heard nothing but good things, and we've seen nothing but good things. Yesterday, everything that I saw, everybody that I talked to that was out there said very, very positive things around Ty Simpson, including Stu Jackson and Zach Edwards, who had their write-ups. They said, although Simpson didn't run with the first-team offense during the 11-on-11 drills, after every time he got taken out, he would walk over to associate coordinator and quarterbacks coach Dave Ragone for feedback. The eagerness and willingness to learn and receive feedback and criticism is good to see out of the rookie. It is, and I love the connection between him and Ragone because, again, for my long-term subscribers, for the guys who have been members of the Ramily for a little while here, I know you remember me saying this. I know you remember me talking about this. We hit on this just a couple of weeks ago. Ty Simpson and Dave Ragone are going to be like two peas in a pod throughout his entire time in Los Angeles. I promise you. Because of Ragone's background as a developer of quarterbacks and because of the high likelihood that Ragone becomes the next offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams after Nate Scheelhaase is hired as a head coach somewhere else. There is planning here, guys. There is a process here, guys. The Rams understand they don't get the luxury of keeping their assistant coaches and their coordinators forever. They are regularly plucked from this tree. So a guy like Dave Ragone, he's going to work closely with a guy like Ty Simpson, who is designed to be the future of this franchise. Those guys are going to be peas in a pod, I promise you, and we're already seeing it. And we will continue to see it and continue to keep you updated around everything around Ty Simpson and everything Rams and Rams training camp, especially as we roll through these next couple of weeks. So make sure you are subscribed. Do not miss a moment of the news, guys. We've got daily roundups for you on everything. And speaking of rounding up, let's round out today's video with some notes on the defense because, guys, man, these cats were flying around on day one. That is the overarching takeaway. If you got to turn this video off right now, that's the overarching takeaway for you. These cats were flying around on day one. Myles Garrett made his debut in team drills. For those of you unaware of this process with Garrett, he's primarily been working in OTAs as an individual. We saw him taking snaps with the outside linebackers. This was his first time working in 11-on-11s. And again, like with Ty Simpson, unanimously positive feedback here. And I will say, no offense, Ty, it was a lot more positive with Myles Garrett. That may shock you, viewer at home. But Myles Garrett is getting rave reviews on day one. In fact, somebody I was texting with said, my God, is he fast. Stu Jackson and Zach Edwards had this to say. Unsurprisingly, Garrett looked as fast and explosive as advertised. We've been looking forward to this day for a long time. Defensive coordinator Chris Shula said, Rams fans are right there with you, Chris Shula. We have been looking forward to this day for a while as well, and it definitely lived up to it, he added. And man, I know every single one of us wishes we were out there to see it, but I got to tell you guys, from everything I'm hearing, he is just as good as was expected, as are Trent McDuffie and Jaylen Watson, who are already turning heads for this Rams defense on day one, already earning praise of their own on day one. Trent McDuffie was noted as being an excellent communicator through the back end of this defense. When he was out there with the ones, he was regularly talking to guys, directing guys, getting guys into position. And remember, he is what? 6 months, not even, into being into this scheme. And he's already leading like that. He's already directing traffic for his teammates, making sure other guys are in the right position when he's been there for less time than probably half of them. That's incredibly impressive. And Jaylen Watson was impressive as well. He was making plays. Here's what we had. One of the highlights of practice was Watson deflecting a Stetson Bennett deep pass intended for wide receiver Davante Adams, which Kam Kinchens corralled for a diving interception. Cam Lampkin also made an impressive pass breakup during team drills with a one-armed, one-handed deflection of a Simpson pass intended for tight end Terrance Ferguson. I heard separately that was Ty Simpson's deepest pass attempt of the day. That shot for Terrance Ferguson, it was about 25 yards down the field. So again, you were seeing mostly short area work for Stetson Bennett and Ty Simpson, but you're seeing this defense shine. You're seeing this defense stand haul against these. And that's just not something we saw last year with any regularity. Of course, they're working against guys who are going to be backup quarterbacks this season. That's important to note. But what is also just as important to note is the fact that they're already communicating at a high level, and these vets are showing up. You went out to get some vets in Trent McDuffie and Jaylen Watson, guys that could come in and be superstars for you, and already they are showing you that potential. But Kam Kinchens as well is showing just as much potential. Guys, that breakout is coming for Kam Kinchens this season. Watch out for 2026 is going to be his year. I am really, really excited about him. I'm very excited about Cam Lampkin, who got some shouts as well from Stu Jackson and Zach Edwards, both mentioned him, and First and Tuna, friend of the show, friend of the channel, who actually will be filming with later this week, so stay tuned for that. He also told me some really good things about Cam Lampkin, so a lot of really good feedback on both of those guys. Couple other notes before we get out of here. A little miscellaneous kind of roundup section. The tight ends are standing out, and that should be no surprise. The 13 personnel looks are continuing to show up. You're seeing 3 tight ends on the field heavily early on with the first team offense, and you're seeing a lot of Terrance Ferguson in that mix. Blake Corum already looks really good. We're hearing good feedback about him. There was no one super explosive notable play to mention here. He didn't rip off a big one, but I was just told every cut he makes looks clean. It looks like he's been in the gym. Those workout videos on Instagram are not just for show. You're seeing the results of those. And then let's close out with some unfortunate injury notes. We got a little bit of injury news. If you guys are subscribed with your noties on, I know you saw these shorts over the weekend, but for those of you who might have missed them, the Rams made 2 roster moves, technically. Justin Dedich, he's been placed on the NFI list right now. We don't know exactly what's going on with Dedich to this point, but that's pretty concerning. Just given the lack of depth across the offensive line, having somebody go down and, again, just not really knowing exactly what's going on with Dedich. NFI list can be a lot of things. That could be anything from he's got the stomach bug and we'll be back in a couple days to something happened off the field. I'm not trying to speculate about what that might be. But again, you just get the sense there's a lot of varieties of outcomes for what that means. So until we have more information, I'm not going to lie, that's a little concerning to see Dedich pop up on the NFI. And then Alzillian Hamilton, undrafted free agent who we'd heard some good things about throughout OTAs, the guy coming out of Fresno State. He is currently still dealing with a knee sprain, so he's going to start the offseason on physically unable to perform. So no Alzillian Hamilton. Hopefully he's able to work his way back throughout training camp and get reactivated. He's fighting for one of the spots on the 53 in that corner room, which is a much more difficult corner room to hack it in than it was last year. But Alzillian had been standing out, so there's definitely a chance he ends up being a special teams contributor, but he's got to get healthy before preseason to really make that impact and make that cut. But again, we will keep you guys covered on every bit of Rams training camp news as soon as we have a Dedich update, as soon as we hear more around Alzillian Hamilton, and everything we hear out of day 2 of practice, which is going on right now, we will have for you guys tomorrow on the show. So make sure you are subscribed and make sure you don't miss it.